I opened the extensions page on the browser I do my work in and counted 11. I actively used 3, 2 of them I could not remember installing at all. One had been updated 4 days earlier by a publisher name I did not recognize, on something I added back in 2021. Every one of those 11 had permission to read and change every page I visit. That is the largest privacy hole most people are carrying around. And it is the one they installed themselves, deliberately, and then never thought about again. The sentence you click past: when you install an extension, the browser shows you a small gray box with a couple of lines in it. One of those lines does almost all of the work: read and change all your data on the websites you visit. That reads like paperwork. It is the widest grant available inside a browser, and there is very little else on your machine that is broader. Read means it sees the page after your connection has been decrypted and the page has been drawn. Your account balance while it is on screen. The body of every email you open. The contents of a form while you are typing into it before you have pressed anything. Change is the other half of that sentence, and it gets far less attention. An extension holding that grant can rewrite what you are looking at. Alter a payment page. Insert a field that was never there. Quietly point a link somewhere else. You approved all of that in about a second, from a box you did not read, probably to get a coupon or a dark mode. Why I pay attention to this? I run mobile proxy infrastructure for a living. SIM cards in modems, sold to businesses that need their traffic leaving from a particular carrier. A lot of what my customers do involves running many separate browser profiles that must not be linkable to each other. So my week is spent on the other side of the glass, thinking about what a page can work out about the person visiting it. An extension is inside the page, past the tunnel, past the encryption. Everything a VPN hides from your network operator is already unwrapped, rendered, and sitting in memory by the time an extension has a look at it. People pay $6 a month for a tunnel and then hand a stranger a chair inside the browser. I have done exactly that myself, which is the only reason I am not sneering at anyone. The second line nobody reads. The all sites permission is the headline. It is rarely the only one. An extension can ask to read your browsing history, which is the whole list rather than the tab you have open. It can ask to manage your downloads. It can ask to read and write your clipboard, where a password sits for 10 seconds at a time. Some ask to talk to a program installed on your computer, which is a bridge out of the browser entirely. Each of those is legitimate for something. A download manager needs downloads. A hardware key helper needs to talk to software on your machine. Read them as a set and ask why this particular tool needs this particular combination. Something that changes the color of web pages has no business with your history. The market nobody mentions. Here is the part that turns a permission into a problem. An extension with a large installed base is an asset, and it has a price. It updates itself. It runs on the machines of people who trust it. And it was usually written by one person as a side project who has been answering support email for free for 6 years. So offers arrive. Sometimes it is framed as help with monetization. Sometimes it is a straight purchase of the listing. Either way, it is real money for something that has been earning nothing. I buy expired domains for other parts of my business, and the pitch pattern is identical. Find an asset that accumulated trust. Buy the trust, point it at something new. A domain is the cheap version of that idea. An extension is the better version because a domain still has to persuade somebody to visit, and an extension is already running on 100,000 computers. The update is the whole trick. Extensions update silently in the background. That is deliberate and mostly good, because it is how a security fix reaches you without you having to do anything. No new prompt appears when the code changes, as long as the permissions have not changed, and they never need to change, because the original developer already asked for everything. So a new owner inherits a live grant to read and change every page on every machine that ever installed it, and not one user is asked again. The thing you read the reviews about in 2022 is not guaranteed to be the code running in your browser this morning. You vetted a snapshot. What you granted was a subscription. What the store review actually does. Both of the big stores review what gets submitted, and that review catches genuine rubbish. It is worth having. It is also being asked to do something it cannot do. It inspects a version, code that behaves perfectly for a fortnight, and then asks the server what to do next, will pass a review comfortably. Because at review time, it really does nothing wrong. It inspects code, and ownership is not code. Nothing in the process notices that a listing changed hands last month. And it runs at a scale where sampling is the only option, across hundreds of thousands of listings. The removals that make the news are usually the work of one outside researcher who spotted something months in, long after the install count went past 1 million. Treat the store as a spam filter. It removes the obvious. It certifies nothing. When the request is completely reasonable, it would be easy to leave you frightened of the permission itself, and that would be wrong, because the extension's worth having genuinely needed. A content blocker has to see every request a page tries to make in order to stop most of them. It cannot do that job from a short list of sites. A password manager has to read the fields on a page to know a login form is there, and it has to know precisely which domain it is looking at. That domain check is the single thing standing between you and a convincing fake page. A translator has to read the text. A reader mode has to rewrite the page. A grammar tool reads every word you type, which is no scandal at all, and it does mean your unfinished writing leaves your machine. So the request on its own tells you nothing. The useful signal is the distance between the permission and the job. A unit converter asking for all sites. A wallpaper theme asking for all sites. A coupon finder asking for all sites, which is at least honest, because knowing every checkout page you land on is the business model. The cashback category, worth naming this one on its own. Coupon and cashback extensions are paid through affiliate commission. To collect it, they rewrite the referral tag on the link you followed, so the credit for your purchase lands with them, instead of whoever actually sent you to the shop. Doing that requires seeing every shop you visit and every basket you fill. It is disclosed somewhere in a policy nobody opens, and it is the product working correctly. If that trade sounds fair to you, take it. Just price it properly. You are paying a lot more than a coupon is worth. The audit, which takes about 10 minutes. Open the extensions page from your browser menu. Every browser has one, and it is never more than 2 clicks away. Now the ruthless part. Remove anything you have not deliberately used in the last month. Not disable, remove. A disabled extension is still installed. Its grant is still on file, and it gets switched back on the first time you go hunting for something and cannot remember why it was off. I expect you to remove more than half. Most people do, and nobody misses any of it. For each survivor, open its details page. Read the permission line and try to say out loud what it needs that for. If you cannot build the sentence, you have your answer. Then find the site access setting. It will be sitting on all sites, and it will almost always offer 2 better positions. On specific sites, where you list the handful it is allowed anywhere near, or on click, where it does absolutely nothing until you click its icon. On click is the setting that changes the whole picture. A screenshot tool, a color picker, a bookmark saver, a page archiver, a thing that copies tab titles. Every one of those can sit inert until the second you want it, and it will work exactly as well as it did before. A password manager and a content blocker need to stay on permanently. That is 2. Call it 3 if you have a specific reason for a third. While you are in there, check whether each one has access in private windows, and turn that off unless you know why it needs it, and start with the browser profile where your money lives. If you only ever do this once, do it there. Fewer bits carefully chosen. The instinct is to research each extension properly and keep the ones that pass. That fails for a reason that has nothing to do with how good your research was. Every extension you keep is a separate feature. Each one can change owner on its own schedule. Each one can be updated tonight, and each one is a decision you made once about something that keeps moving. 11 good extensions is 11 ongoing relationships you are not maintaining. 3 extensions pinned to the sites they actually need is a smaller surface, and a list short enough that you might read it again next year. And the surprising amount of what people install replaces a bookmark, a keyboard shortcut, or something the browser already does on its own. The one I kept too long. Mine was a screenshot and annotation tool, installed in 2021 for support tickets, used maybe 4 times a year after that. I noticed it had changed because the options page looked different one morning, and there was a sign in button on a thing that had never needed an account. Unimpotent, I did not remove it that day. I told myself I would look into it properly. That took about 7 months. The honest reason it survived is that deleting it meant admitting I was never going to use it. And for all 7 of those months, it held permission to read every page in the profile I do my banking in. Nothing bad happened as far as I can tell, and that is the uncomfortable bit. Because in this category you would not necessarily know, which is the argument for removing on suspicion instead of waiting for evidence. See, my personal browser is also worse than my work one. I cleaned up the profile I think of as professional and left the other alone for another 2 months. So take the 10-minute audit as advice. I had to be embarrassed into taking myself, what it cannot do. Let me be fair about the ceiling on all this. An extension is confined to the browser. It cannot read your other applications. It cannot touch files on your disk unless you hand them over. It cannot see a browser profile it was never installed into. And it cannot follow you onto your phone, where most mobile browsers still have no extensions at all. So this is nowhere near the worst thing that can happen to a computer. Real malware running under your user account is worse in every direction. It is the most likely one. And it came through the front door, with your permission on a wet Tuesday, in exchange for a coupon. The full audit walkthrough and the settings I actually run are at theprivacywire.com. Subscribe for privacy advice that is actually practical.